In the earliest months of 2014, I started dating my current boyfriend. We hit it off immediately, which resulted in me staying at his house multiple nights out of the week. Eventually, I ended up living there, sharing a mobile home with him and his father. The neighborhood itself was fairly creepy, one of those unnamed country areas that branched from a main road. Richard, my boyfriend's dad, would tell me stories about how the entire street was owned by one man, a guy who had gotten old in recent years and let the land go. As a result, the field beside the mobile home was overgrown with weeds and old trees. He also told me about the strange occurrences, of which he attributed to two things: aliens and kids from another neighborhood. Despite his warnings and how creepy the area was, I didn't take him too seriously. After all, his biggest concern was aliens. I was unemployed a short period of time after moving in, which left me alone in the house while Cody, my boyfriend, and his dad worked. I spent most of my days putting in job applications, cleaning up the house, and reading online. I guess you could say that my presence at the house was pretty predictable, which is the only explanation for this occurrence. On a day as unremarkable as any, while I sat reading a book in our bedroom, I heard a car pull into the driveway. The sound was pretty distinctive, considering the area wasn't paved, but rather made up of gravel. Thinking that Cody had come home early from work, I slipped on my shoes and headed to the door, which was on the other side of the house. Before I could reach it, a knock sounded against the glass. The front of our trailer had a sunroom, basically a front porch that is encased with windows, making it so you had to go through two doors before slipping into the living room. Being as paranoid as he was, Richard would usually lock the sunroom door before leaving for work, unless he was in a huge hurry. Still thinking that maybe my boyfriend had come home early from work, I opened the front door to let him in. Only it wasn't Cody at the door, but rather a short Hispanic man. He smiled at me through the glass and nodded, almost as if I was exactly who he'd been expecting to answer. I noticed he had one hand behind his back, the other hanging at his side. I tried not to think too much about it. Behind him in our carport was a small white truck, and I could hear that the engine was still running. "Can I help you?" I tried to make my voice sound as strong as I could, but it could only come out as shaky. "I'm with the garbage company. I'm here to pick up your trash cans." I blinked, knowing immediately that this was a lie. Yes, it was common for the garbage company to come and pick up your trash cans if the bill hadn't been paid. But I had gone with Cody the week before to pay it. Not to mention, the drivers would never knock on the door, they would only just take the cans and leave. I glanced to my left, seeing that our trash cans were still where we always kept them, on the outside of the sunroom, somewhat behind the house. "They're right there. If you need them, then take them." This time I made my voice more assertive, causing my visitor's smile to turn into a frown. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't verbally answer. I just shook my head, My heart dropped as I watched him reach up and grab the handle to the glass door, pulling on it to open it. The door clicked, obviously locked. The man tried to pull it again, this time harder, causing the metal to creak. I jumped back into the house and slammed the front door, locking it with purpose. It was so quiet in the house that I could only notice two sounds: my heart pounding, and the doorknob to our back door jiggling. There was no way it could have been the guy from the front porch. He wouldn't have had time to get to the back door even if he ran. "I'm calling the fucking police," I yelled through the door, still baffled at the fact that this was all happening in broad daylight. I could hear the truck drive through the carport into our backyard immediately after that. I took a moment to look through the blinds of a window, watching as a separate man jumped off the back porch and into the passenger seat. To this day, I'm convinced that these men knew I was home alone and carefully planned an attack. One of them was meant to distract me while the other broke into the back door. I still don't know what the front door guy had hidden behind his back. All I can say is that I am forever thankful on how paranoid my father-in-law is. Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't locked the sunroom door.
During the midsummer, usually around the middle of July, me and a couple of my good friends, Kevin, Ryan, and Tommy, all the way through my childhood, always made time to go up to my one friend's family cabin, way up north in the forest of Minnesota, the cabin being located on Vermilion Lake. Throughout all of our young years, we would always go, for sure accompanied by my friend's dad, Kevin's dad, who owned the cabin, and sometimes a few of our dads as well. Once we were juniors in high school, we felt mature and old enough to go to the cabin on our own, finally, without Kevin's dad or any other adult supervision that might have accompanied us. I would like to mention a little information in regards to my friend's cabin to help you picture the scenario. My friend's cabin is very remote and very little based upon a very large-sized island. Other cabins were on the island, but the next one closest to us was a solid court or half a mile away at least, which is my best guess, which you could get to by taking a man-made path around the island. And I want to mention that to get to my friend's cabin, you had to park on a gravel road on the opposite side of the island, as his cabin was on an island, and take his boat across the lake about half a mile to reach the cabin. Keep in mind that this lake is huge. My mind always had a tendency to run around when sleeping there at night throughout all my years, for it was all one level with only 2 bedrooms next to one another, a kitchen, living room connected, and a bathroom in the back of the cabin. And when you slept in the cabin, there was always at least one window in each room with no curtain to it at all, so it was very easy to see outside to the woods and lake, and this is where my mind would run, as I always thought someone was peering in. Of course, nobody ever was. I had been to this cabin a dozen times throughout my life, and nothing had ever happened, and the older I got, the easier it was to sleep. Now, for the event. We usually would stay a week's worth, or 4 or 5 nights. On the 3rd night during the trip, when we were there on our own, finally, we had set up a campfire and had been drinking beer all night. I don't condone underage drinking, by the way. We just happened to sneak some, being the rebels we are. We went out to his dock to gaze up at the magnificence of the stars and enjoy our buzz when, all of a sudden, we heard something out at the water that sounded like a fish jumping out to catch a bug. We quickly looked out at the lake with curiosity, having our poles ready 24/7. Thankfully, the moon was out that night, which helped to light up the lake. Otherwise, it would be dark as black, with there being no city lights for miles upon miles, and we would not have been able to see anything on the lake. My one friend, Ryan, began to point out, saying, "What the hell is that?" After looking closely and finally spotting what he was pointing at, all I can describe it was simply looking like a head out in the middle of the lake, just floating about, staring at us directly. It was about 3/4 worth of a football field length out into the lake from the dock. There is no question that I could see its features. It had long black hair and very palish skin like a face, but couldn't make out the eyes, mouth, nose, or chin, as if it was just a blob of pale skin with long black hair over it. I'll never forget the feeling that came over me. The hairs on my legs, neck, arm, all stood up, and I was paralyzed on the inside, ready to leave that moment. But we told ourselves it was just a loon, as these birds are very popular night drifters in the lake and do their hunting late, and also have black and white colors on their coats, and hunt by diving deep into the water, holding their breath up, and to minutes sometimes. So it was possible that a loon all of a sudden popped up in the water after hunting a bit, or at least we tried to talk ourselves into that scenario. All of us having the creeps and noticing it wasn't moving one bit, just treading water in its same place, went back to our campfire, lit it even brighter, and head inside to drink more. I would like to mention that there was a staircase outside my friend's cabin, about 8 stairs in length, down to the bottom where the fire pit was, and dock. We soon forgot about the head with the help of the beer until I had to use the bathroom really bad, and the one inside was preoccupied. I went outside to do my business since we were in the great outdoors, when I had been taking a pee and glancing out at the beautiful moonlit lake. I noticed that the black circle object was still there, but about 30 yards closer now. Still looking at it as if it was staring right at me, I could easily see the nose on this thing's face. Again, it was very pale, like it hadn't seen the sun for years. A very, very uneasy feeling came over me, and I immediately went inside, told my other friends to come look quick, keeping my eyes glued to it at the door to the cabin. We came outside to see it was still there looking at us, as if the head was corked up at us with its chin in the air. Nobody dared go down to the dock anymore, and we went back inside, ruling out that it probably wasn't a loon, because a loon wouldn't have tread the water in the same spot. Eventually the current would have drifted it off somewhere in a rocking manner. For a loon to stay in the same spot for almost an hour or two made no sense to any of us. This head-like object was stiff as a board, and not moving a single muscle, just staring up at us from the deck instead. There was no ripple effect at all in the lake from the object. We said it was just a log and went back inside. I could tell everyone else felt uneasy too. A few hours would pass. It was super late into the night, and at this point I knew we needed to sleep. Being my curious self, I looked back outside once more, and the black object had completely vanished. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, thinking the log must have floated off or just hit the shore somewhere. As we slept with the windows open that night, since there was no AC in the cabin and we had to open them or we would fry in this cabin with it being the middle of summer, me and my other buddy, Tommy, slept in the living room, while my 2 other friends slept in the 2 separate bedrooms with their doors open. Not being able to sleep, but keeping my eyes peeled shut, I began to hear someone walking around at the bottom of the stairs to the cabin, which was around the campfire and at the bottom of the stair. I thought I was about to shit bricks. No question what or whoever I heard down there was of the dock now, pacing back and forth as it made the sound of a boot clicking on the wood. It was as if they weren't sure what to do with themselves. It lasted for about 3 minutes. Wanting to whisper to my buddy, but frozen in fear, I just kept my eyes shut and ears on full alert. The footsteps sounded like they took 2 steps up the deck stairs all of a sudden, but then turned around and sounded like they were sprinting down the man-made path. After it sounded like the steps were long gone, and a couple minutes had passed, I woke up Tommy, asking if he heard the steps. Both of us sitting up, I was startled by my friend, Ryan, walking out of his room and saying we needed to leave a minute after these steps vanished. He must have heard us talking, so he felt he could come out as well. But either way, he was walking up to us regardless. Something was very disturbing about his expression, and I asked him, "Why?" He woke up my other friend, Kevin, in the other room and said, "Let's go! Get to the boat! It's time to go!" Asking him, What? Ryan, what the hell is wrong with you?" He explained to us while quickly grabbing his stuff, and I will never forget what he explained as well my other friends. He said he was turning sides on his bed to get more comfortable when he saw something peeking in at the top right corner of his window, and it quickly shifted out of view. He said all he saw was one eye, ghostly white skin, and black, long hair down the window. Again, another thing I would like to add, when we looked back at what he was experiencing, it chilled us to the bone, realizing that since this face was in the top right corner of the window in my friend's room that he was sleeping in, this thing either was damn near 8 feet tall or standing on something like bricks trying to peek in, or happened to be floating. Then continuing to say, "Let's fucking go," very seriously, almost disturbed the fuck out of my mind and feeling like I was gonna be sick. And then telling them what my friend and I heard in the living room. We all agreed and packed our stuff and booked it, not cleaning the cabin or anything like we always do. We locked up. As we headed down the stairs, we saw bare footprints in the dirt heading up into the path and all around the cabin. We picked up our step getting to the boat, not knowing what was around us, and threw our stuff onto the boat, untied, and sped off. I didn't even think about the head in the water anymore, or to look into the water. Thank God. My eyes were just glued to the island, trying to spot anything moving, but I saw nothing. When we had finally gotten our stuff packed in the car and boat tied up, we hopped in the car and took off. We had been driving out about 10 miles, and out of the blue, Ryan, who he said saw the person outside his window, all of a sudden broke down in the car sobbing, saying, "What was it, guys? Fuck. What did I see?" We called to tell our parents what had happened on the way back, and that Ryan was freaking out, and they told us to just get home safely and quickly. It was late, about 4 or 5 in the morning, but no one slept, and it was a very quiet ride home. My friend's dad, who owns the cabin, went up the following weekend and said he experienced nothing while there, but did mention bare footprints were still lingering about, which he thought was odd, and said someone was walking around his property, which bugged him badly. Whatever my one friend saw in the window really hit him hard. After his breakdown, he had trouble sleeping multiple nights and ended up having to seek some help for a couple weeks and help on some sleeping medicine. As time went on, he ended up being fine, but insisted that he wasn't too comfortable sleeping next to a window without a curtain. I, to this day, cannot explain what happened and why it seemed to happen to us. I cannot explain what I saw in the lake and what Ryan specifically saw. Nothing has ever happened at that cabin since that night, so we're told from my friend's dad who owns it, which I believe him. I personally have never decided to go back to that cabin, which really makes me sad because I had great childhood memories there. Tommy and Kevin both have gone back and have been fine, but Ryan refuses to go back, and a lot of people have cabins on this island, so it could have been a prank in the makings that had been busted when Ryan saw the person at the window, or the person possibly wanting to do something worse. I will never be able to explain what was floating in that lake, but the fact that this incident, along with bare feet and someone looking in at Ryan at night, all happened in the same night, seems like more than a coincidence.
My New Year's resolution of 2012 was to get back in shape. After my first kid was born, I had lost my athletic interest, but I had every intention of getting it back. So I started running 4 days a week with my friend Hannah, who was a very great runner and motivator. We would run after work, 5 to 10 kilometers, usually favoring the forest trail. It's the kind of trail that got lightning in the darker months of the year. So you can run there anytime, really. Once you turn on the lights, you got 45 minutes to run the shorter trail and longer to run the longest one. Then the lights shut off automatically. We have been running for 2 months when we started seeing the same man hanging around the parking lot every time we got there. Thin man, about 25 to 30 years of age, always dressed in sports clothes but never actually ran. He never looked you in the eye either. We speculated that he could be a homeless man camping nearby, because he was constantly there. We got used to seeing him, sitting somewhere close by, silently and always on his own. We felt sorry for him. He never seemed to talk to anyone or interact at all, but there was something about him that made us hesitate to talk to him, or ask him if he was okay. Can't pinpoint what it was, but something wasn't completely right with him. One evening, Hannah didn't make it to the run, and I decided to go on my own. I arrived at the parking lot, my car being the only one there. I did some stretching, turned on the lights, and set off on the 5-kilometer trail. I hadn't seen the thin, silent man when I started my run. Perhaps he was getting too cold for him to sit there now, that it was autumn, dark, and getting closer to the freezing point. He must have been there, though, somewhere in the shadows, because when I got on to the top of the first steep hill, I could hear heavy breathing somewhere behind me. I looked over my shoulder and I see him. He is running like a man obsessed, in regular shoes, not running shoes, and his arms moving in a strange stiff manner as if he was made of metal. His hands like arrows, straight and in an upward-inward angle. Sort of like a sprinter, but more extreme, moving like a robot. For the first time he looked at me in the eyes, and it was the eyes of a predatory animal, and it made my heart freeze. He had never done anything to harm me, or anyone else as far as I knew, but the look in his eyes alone was enough to let me know that I was facing a serious threat. I started running faster, trying to create distance between us, and I could hear his heavy breathing getting even more strained. I ran like my life depended on it, adrenaline pumping through my body and giving me new strength. I tore off my necklace and threw it on the ground, thinking I must leave a trace behind if he takes me. Something must be left behind. I tried screaming, hoping someone would be close enough to hear me, but I couldn't scream my lungs out and keep up the phase at the same time. Why is he doing this? What does he want? Who is he? I thought, as I started to feel my lungs burn. Then I thought of my 15-month-old daughter, and ran until I could taste blood in my mouth. He's still behind me, maybe 100 meters behind now, but I figured that if I tripped and fall, or run out of energy, or fumble with my car keys once I reach the parking lot, then I'm screwed. Once I reached the sharp turn on the trail, I went off the trail and ran straight into the dark woods. I ran only a short distance and then I laid down flat on my stomach, my hands searching for a rock to defend myself if he found me. I realized that I was wearing bright running clothes with reflexes and neon coloring. I had never felt so visible in the dark before. I could hear him reach the turn, and thank God he kept on running. I started to slowly and as silently as possible move further into the darkness. My heart sank again as I heard rapid footsteps closing in on the trail. He had realized that I must have gone off the trail once he saw that there was no sign of me ahead. He stopped and I stopped. I could imagine him listening for any sound. I held my breath and begged to a god that I don't even believe in to make him go away. After a while, I heard him say something in a language that I did not recognize and walk off. I didn't move. I feared that he would wait for me by my car, and realized that I had to get off the trail and onto a main road and stop someone. I couldn't go back to the parking lot. I started to make my way further into the woods. Knowing that I would eventually end up on the last part of the long trail, and close to the main road. The lights on the trail suddenly shut off. That made me calmer at first. The darkness was a comfort and protection, but then, after only a few moments, it switched on again. This could only mean that another person had just started their run, and soon I would have someone there to help me. Or that he was out there looking for me, or getting ready to prey on a lonely runner. I decided against waiting to find out, and continued my way towards the main road. It was dark and I fell multiple times, my clothes getting wet from the damp vegetation, and I started to get cold. After what felt like a lifetime, I could see the 10-kilometer trail up ahead, and knew I was close to the main road. Soon I could hear the traffic. Once I made it to the road, I must have looked like I was in a terrible accident. Blood from several small cuts from the falling. My clothes dirty and my face, I assume, petrified. My bright runner shirt soon attracted the attention of a passing car. My waving and desperate shouting made it stop. The driver, a 40-ish man with 2 kids in the back seat, spent the next 10 minutes or so trying to make sense of what I was trying to say. Between the sobbing and the crying, he asked if I needed a lift back to the parking lot, and I told him no. Please just take me home instead. At home, my husband insisted on going back to the parking lot to retrieve the car, and calling the police. And report what? I asked. No crime had been committed. I just knew that he was out there to get me. My husband went back for the car. The driver's seat window had been smashed and my phone was gone. So was the photo of my daughter that had been hanging from the mirror. I don't know what he was trying to do, or why he was chasing me the way he did. But the look in his eyes, there was no doubt he had bad intentions. Creepy forest man, let's never meet again.
And welcome back to the 87th Annual West Chesterfield Cryptid Show with your hosts, Flint Gatesman and Delbert Ketchum.
Welcome back to the 87th Annual West Chesterfield Cryptid Club Freak Show.
It is amazing to be here. It is amazing to see all of nature's most insane abnormalities here on display today.
That's right, Delbert. We've got a fine selection of all kinds of crazy cryptids today. They are going to be vying for the prestigious award, the Blue Ribbon of the West Chesterfield 2014 Cryptid Club Best in Show.
Right you are, Flint. Now, we've already finished competition for the airborne cryptids, but I'll tell you what, my favorite has and always will be the cryptids that are bound to the earth. These are the walkers, the crawlers, the slitherers, and the rollers.
That's right, Delbert. It's been 20 years since a roller won the competition, and it's going to be tough competition for anyone going against any of these unfair cryptids.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head,
Hate to cut you off there, Delbert, but we've got them coming out now. Here's the parade of land-dwelling cryptids.
Oh, look at them. They are such fine examples of whatever it is they are. My early days in the Cryptid Club, we called this a hobo's nightmare.
Here's the first to enter the field, the Yo-Yo-Yo-Kai.
Like I said before, here it comes rolling down. This is just an amazing specimen. It says that the West Chesterfield Cryptid Club is ready to step into the new millennium and embrace cultures from around the world, and I'm just tickled shitless about it.
Here's our second contestant for the land dwellers, the Manticore. What a fine coat of crimson this one is sporting for this competition.
Oh, you couldn't be more right, Flint. This is an amazing specimen.
That's right there, Delbert. Next up, we have the beautiful Knuckleavi.
No shirt, no shoes, no problem for this one, Flint. The Knuckleavi is a beautiful spectral steed where skin need not apply.
Next up, slithering its way across the field, we have the Tatzelworm.
Slitherers are always fun to watch, Flint. And the Tatzelworm never disappoints.
That's right. Even from the press box here, I can see its eyes telling everyone, y'all should leave. Meow, meow, meow.
Meow, 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 Flint.
And finally,
meow, meow, meow.
We have the Squonk, who's having a little trouble coming out of the gate area.
Now, the Squonks were disqualified from competition for over 27 years following an unfortunate incident during the Second World War, which was at the time misinterpreted as critical of the war effort. But we were able to clear that up, and now the Squonk is a proud
Well,
dear me.
Part of the majesty of live cryptid clubbing.
You can't force a Squonk.
One of the worst things you can do to a squonk is put it on a leash and make it try and do things you want it to do.
That handler's going to be looking for a new job tomorrow, Flint.
We'll have to have someone clean up that puddle where it used to be.
Yeah, that Squonk melted right away.
And so while we have that happening, let's go down to our field correspondent, Jeff.
Oi then, Delbert, Flint. I've got to say, I mean, back in the 70s when I was king of this.
That's right, 7-time Cryptid Club champion from 1972 to 1979. Jeff, the Talking Mongoose.
This is as fine a group of cryptids as ever I've seen there, Flint. I mean, being down here with them, these are all champions in their own right, and I've seen a lot of champions come, a lot of champions go, and they bring it tear to my eye. Oh, hello. Back to you, Flint.
And now the judge will make her examination of the fine specimens presented here. First up, she's approaching the Manticore currently.
Hey, I tell you, Flint, they say lightning don't strike twice, but there is a certain carelessness to her approach that I feel forebodes ill.
I believe she is examining the jawline and sharp teeth of the Manticore.
No!
There went the hand of the judge down the Manticore's throat. Just excellent.
Now take a look at this, Flint. We're going to get this on the replay. Watch her face. You see, she registers nothing. These teeth are so sharp. It took her a good 7 seconds for her to realize her hand was gone and it wasn't never coming back. Oh, that is an arterial spray. But good news, I mean, that Squonk team can just move right on over.
While the judge gets that bandaged, she looks at the haunches of the Knuckleavi.
It's about silver linings, Flint, and the Knuckleavi ain't got none of them.
Quite honestly, I can't tell where the haunches end and the torso begins.
Nor should you.
And on to the Tatzelworm, where she's checking the fur versus scale ratio.
That's right, you want thick chitinous scales, but soft pillowy fur. And this Tatzelworm has them both in spades, Flint. This is a glorious example of the breed.
That's right, Delbert. What an amazing specimen we have before us. And now the judge is ready to make her decision. She's calling out the Knuckleavi. and the Tottledam.
Oh, I could have called it, but I didn't.
The top 2 competitors for the land, and now she'll pick the winner of those 2. Who do you think it will be, Delvet?
I gotta tell you, I'm putting all my money on the Tottleworm.
The judge is inspecting them both, and now they're parading around the arena. And she has selected Tottledam. Tottledam is the land winner.
Sweet screaming vajeebies. I can call them all.
Tottledam moves on to competition for Best in Show for the 2014 West Chesterfield Cryptid Club contest.
We'll be back in a moment with more amazing cryptid action.
And we'll fill in the time in between.
That's right. Oh. Sweet screaming vajeebies. It's Blurry Photos.
Hey everybody, I am David Flora.
And I am the pretty show pony, David Stecco.
That's right. We have been finally groomed. We have been paraded around.
Our dew claws have been pushed in.
Our gums have been examined, as has our rectal regions.
Yep.
And this is Blurry Photos.
We prefer to be lifted by the neck and crotch only.
Preferably at the same time.
Yeah, we stay perfectly still.
Oh,
We love a nice trot.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I would never...
What, never?
No, never. What, never? Hardly ever.
Mostly never. But occasionally.
I hardly ever. I would never subject my dog to that. Mostly because she's a Maltese and they look really weird when they have the long hair and their AKC standard. You know what I mean?
No.
You don't know?
No.
They're supposed to be like...
No, man. Where I come from, I'm pretty sure you get your ass kicked for that.
Well, that's where I come from too. That's why I don't do it. No, the Maltese are supposed to have very like floor-length hair all over their body.
Oh, they look like little silky mops.
Right, exactly. And I don't like that. I like the short hair pixie cut for my dog.
Mm-hmm.
So
Pixie Cut's the king of haircuts.
that's what she gets, and she's blue ribbon in my heart.
Your little beauty queen, Esmeralda.
She's actually she's asleep here with her head on a tripod leg.
That can't possibly end badly.
I have no idea how that's comfortable at all, but okay. Anyway,
she's drunk.
We're glad that you found us, or joined us, or come back to us.
We're listening to this as a part of some sort of
bet.
Yeah,
dear
public service for a DUI. Thanks, State of Vermont, for your help. It's one of the best partnerships we've made is with the State of Vermont.
State of Vermont.
Yeah, correct.
I'll tell you what, though, Bernie Sanders knows what he's doing. Our best senator, I put forward.
Well, you guys are probably wondering what the hell we're here for.
Yeah, what are we here for? You know what we're here for?
What?
We're here for you.
And I got to tell you, nobody speak right now. Don't ruin this feeling I'm getting from it. Just one moment. Oh.
I'll take this quick moment to switch things up a little bit.
What?
Yeah, just to throw it out there in case you don't get to it for one reason or other. But I want to tell you guys that we are sponsored by Audible.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go to audibletrial.com/blurry photos, you get a free audiobook of your choice when you sign up.
I'm selecting one tonight.
Dave kept his.
Yeah.
He did it. He kept his.
Yeah.
You are not bound to anything. You get a 30-day free membership with it. You get one free audiobook of your choice.
Yep.
And if you like it, you keep it. If you don't, you say no thank you. But you still keep the book, and we get a high five from Audible.
Yep. I'm going on a vacation, and I'm going to have lots of flights, and so I'm going to get an audiobook just for that.
And you're going to listen to the Civil War episode.
And I'll listen to the Civil War episode.
Because hopefully it'll be out by then.
Oh, man. It'll be out, and I'm going on a family vacation, taking my 10-year-old cousin to Disney World for a week.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Is your sister going to be there too?
My sister's going to be there.
Fun.
Yeah. We're gonna melt this kid's brain. I gotta say, unfortunately, even with the beeps, I can't quite let him know what it is we do here on account of us being filthy without ever uttering a swear.
That's a thing, man. We should be taught in the classroom, but we shouldn't.
Here's an example. bonehole. There's no swears there. You can't say that to a 10-year-old.
I would.
Well, that's why you're not allowed to live near schools.
Ah, damn it. I wish you'd quit bringing that up on the podcast.
So yeah, that's what I will be listening to.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hoot. I'm excited about it.
I'll stay here and work.
Oh,
But you need it. You need a break. But that's not why you're here. You're not here to listen to us.
Okay, well, I mean, you're here to listen to us, but not this part of us.
You don't want to dig too deep. You're not greedy little dwarves.
No one wants to know how a hooker's day went. Let's just get to why we're here.
Blurry Photos, the hooker of podcasts.
Right.
All right. I won't ask you your name because I know it's whatever I want it to be. So tonight we're talking about hellhounds.
Tonight on Blurry Photos, hellhounds. Are you safe? No, we've already that's trademarked to another in the Blurry Photos family of horse shit podcasts. I really enjoyed. Was it Emerson who wrote in that had that long list of all the weird podcasts and sub podcasts and sidecasts?
Oh, Emerson, yeah.
It was kind of hilarious.